morning, everybody, and welcome to another amazing Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. We've got so many familiar faces, but we've got a lot of newbies too. So if you're joining us for the first time today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And you are catching us smack dab in the middle of Ocean Week. So June 1st through 8th, all around the world, communities, governments, amazing groups like our Turtle Hospital friends celebrate Ocean Week with a whole bevy of events. We've got 21 broadcasts this week alone. They're all going to our YouTube channel, so there's so much to explore and discover. Now, before I turn you over to a feeding frenzy happening right now in a little box underneath my screen at the Turtle Hospital, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our question period, you can play along with this game pin 4 questions to test your turtle understanding for some bragging rights. But without further ado, I'm taking you to Marathon, Florida with Paige at the Turtle Hospital, the group we have featured more than any other group in our 10-year history, and she's going to blow our minds talking about their work to rescue, rehabilitate, re-release, and share the amazing world of sea turtles with kids like you. So Paige, welcome in. Take us away. Tell us what's going on.
Hi, everybody. So, looks like our little guys just had a little pre-breakfast snack with some lettuce. So, we're going to be hanging out with these little ones for today. But we're actually going to go and talk a little bit about some of the different types of sea turtles, what we're actually doing here, and why some of these turtles are actually coming into the hospital today. Now, what you guys are actually looking at, these little ones are green sea turtles. They are actually one of the most common patients that we actually get here at the hospital. Now, there are technically 7 different types of sea turtles in the world, but here just in the Florida waters, you have the possibility of seeing 5 of those species of sea turtles. But here at the hospital, we are currently housing 4 of them. Now, with our green sea turtle here, these guys can actually grow up to around 500 pounds. They are the second largest sea turtle, and they can live between 80 to 100 years old. Always found that pretty fascinating about these little guys. Now, as you guys can tell, these guys were eating some lettuce, but what they usually eat out in the ocean is going to be mostly seagrass, algae, squid, jellyfish, and regular fish. But what we like to feed them here is romaine lettuce, cucumbers, bell peppers, cut up fish, and squid. So a lot of veggies, a lot of fish and stuff to that effect. Now, our second species, and personally my favorite, is actually going to be the loggerhead. Now, she actually hasn't come up yet, but hopefully soon. We have a giant loggerhead in that little corner right there. Her name is Medea, and she's actually one of my favorite sea turtles here. So loggerheads are called loggerheads due to their massive head and neck, as they were often mistaken as floating logs out in the ocean. Now, they can range around 250 to 450 pounds. Now, their diet is really cool in my opinion because it mostly consists of something called hard-shelled invertebrates. So conch shells, lobsters, crab. And I don't know if you guys have ever held a conch shell before, but they're pretty heavy. And they can actually go through those conch shells like we would a potato chip. And the way they're able to do that is because they have a very strong bite force that reaches up to around 900 psi. So that's actually pretty equivalent to almost an alligator snapping turtle or even a black bear. And the reason why I love these guys the most is because they have the brain the size of a large grape. So they are more instinctual. They also can get pretty territorial. So we can't put 2 loggerheads in the same pool or tank area. Now, the next species that we're going to be talking about is going to be the hawksbills. Now, we do have 2 little baby hawksbills. I'm hoping to be able to show you guys here in a little bit. And the hawksbills were often mistaken as stranded birds out in the ocean because it looks like they have a bird-like beak. They're really small. They only reach around 100 to 150 pounds. And their main food source will mostly consist of crabs, shrimp, and sea sponge. Now, a little thing about the hawksbill as well as the green sea turtles history is that sadly people did try to hunt these guys for their shells, for the hawksbills and also for turtle meat for our greens and hawksbills. But thankfully, due to something called the Endangered Species Act that actually took place in 1973, that actually helps protect these guys from people hunting them for their shell, their eggs, and turtle meat and other products. And that's actually still in place to this day to help protect these guys, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, the fourth species that we have here at the hospital is going to be called the Kemp's Ridleys. They're also nicknamed the ghost turtles because of their coloring. They actually will hatch jet black, and then they lighten into an off-white, a pure white, or even a yellowish color. I've always found that pretty fascinating about them as well, because it's mostly to help camouflage against overcoming predators. Now, these guys are the smallest of all of the species. They only reach up to 100 pounds, so they are very small. And a really cool thing about them that they are most commonly known for is going to be their nesting habits. A little thing about sea turtles is that all sea turtles will actually go back to the same beach that they were hatched at when they reached maturity. So for the Kemp's Ridleys, they don't reach maturity until around 10 to 15 years old. Whereas our green sea turtles here, they will return to that beach around 20 to 25 years old, because that's when they start to reach maturity. But they're usually going to go alone and at nighttime. They really like their privacy. Whereas the Kemp's Ridleys, or the ghost turtles, they actually go in mass numbers and during broad daylight of all things. So there was once a time where scientists ended up taking a picture on a beach in the 1950s, and they actually estimated around 42,000 Kemp's Ridleys on that one beach nesting, which I don't know about you guys. I cannot fathom seeing that amount of turtles in one spot. That's absolutely insane. Now, so a little thing about them is that is what they normally do, is that they normally all nest together and during that broad daylight time. But the thing is that sadly, they actually started to dig up each other's nests at that point. So what thankfully scientists ended up doing, they started to take these nests throughout the years and they transported them to a new beach called South Padre. So now, when those specific nests ended up reaching maturity, they would then end up going to the new section of the beach instead of overcrowding the old one again. And I'm pretty sure I actually saw on a Facebook page that they ended up having a record number of nests. It was either this year or the past couple years. So that is very exciting. Now, our last species, and definitely I think a fan favorite, is going to be the leatherback. Those guys can get up to around 2,000 pounds, and they actually average around 6.5 feet long. So, about the size of maybe a Volkswagen Bug, to be honest. But they are practically gentle giants, as all they eat is jellyfish. They actually do us a big favor by eating up to around 70% of their body weight in jellyfish every single day. I couldn't imagine having to eat that much jellyfish to be able to keep going. That's a lot. But a lot of people will ask, well, Paige, how did they get that much jellyfish? And the answer is that they have to be able to dive down to some extreme depths to be able to get that much. So a little fun fact for you friends is that they can dive down to depths of the 4,000 feet, which is actually about as deep as a submarine can go, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And the reason why is because they're able to do that is because they have a very, very different shell versus our other sea turtles. So they have a shell that is made of cartilage, which is actually the same material as your nose and your ears. So that shell can expand and contract and contort. So that way the pressure of the ocean doesn't actually harm their shell while they dive down that far. looks like our rehab team might be putting a turtle up on one of the little bins here. Maybe we'll be able to stick around and watch that.
Fingers crossed.
I know, fingers crossed. Alrighty, friends. So now that we have introduced those 5 species that you had the possibility of seeing in the Florida waters, I'm actually going to go ahead and talk a little bit about why some of our sea turtles are coming into us. Now, we're actually going to go ahead and start off with these little guys here. Now, the reason why these little ones ended up coming into our facility is due to something called positive buoyancy disorder, or AKA bubble butt disorder. Looks like Miss Medea is coming up. So she's that loggerhead that we were talking about earlier. She also came in due to the bubble butt disorder. Now, everybody always asks, why do you guys call it that? And the reason why we call positive buoyancy disorder or bubble butt disorder is because we actually ended up having a turtle named Bubble Butt. I'm actually going to go ahead and move out of the way here because we do have one of our staff trying to stop one of our turtles from going over there. We're going to go ahead and move over here for a little bit. But a little fun thing about that specific name is that it was called that due to our very first patient that ended up coming in due to the bubble butt disorder. And he was practically a celebrity to everybody since he taught us a lot of what we currently know about the disorder. Now, basically, what the disorder is that sadly when a turtle is struck by a boat, what can end up happening is that the natural gases that are in their body can become displaced. Think of it as wearing a life jacket and trying to dive underneath the water. But we all know that you will start to float to the top of the surface again. Now, when that turtle is trying to dive down, they may only get down just a little bit, and then they're going to start to float right back up to the top of the surface. And that makes it very hard for them to be able to dive and get food, or to be able to get away from predators and or boat strikes. Other boat strikes, that is. Now, once this turtle is brought into us, sadly, after that boat strike, we will work with them for however long they need. And then after a certain period of time, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to perform something called a swim test. If that turtle is able to go under the water, stay under the water, and swim without our help, they get to go right back out to the ocean. Now, if they are sadly unable to, we will then have to attach these little leaded weights onto the back of their shell to help them become a little bit more, in a sense, stable and flat. Because the reason why we do this, friends, is if a turtle is like this, head down here, bum up here, it's very hard for them to be going up for that air. Whereas if we have that weight on them, it evens them out like this, and then it's a lot easier for them to come up for that air intake. So it looks like they're putting Medea up in the little bin here. I wonder if it's a spa day, or I wonder if maybe she's getting weighed or an exam. We'll have to keep watching. Now,
So cool.
I know.
Just very briefly for our audience,
Yeah.
I've done 40 of these, and I think this has happened twice ever where we've had a turtle taken out in the middle of the broadcast. Like, it's just so unlikely and so cool. So I hope it all works out and the connection's good to show it. And so neat.
We'll get a little bit closer. Now, friends, the only downfall is if a turtle needs those weights, you can kind of see them on Medea here, is that if they need those, they sadly cannot be released because the top layer of their shell, called the scutes, will actually end up coming off over time. And then again, that would end up leaving our specific turtle floating at the top of the surface again. But thankfully, not every boat strike does equal bubble butt disorder. I can thankfully say that. Now, the second reason why some of our sea turtles are coming into us is due to something called FP. I'm going to get a little bit in there. Alrighty. Now, what FP is, it's basically like a virus that lives in our turtle's body until stress and or a weakened immune system can end up actually causing types of growths to occur on the turtle's body. So they actually look like this. They can occur around their eyes, their mouth, flippers, their tail area, and sometimes even internally. Now, thankfully, we can remove these specific tumors, and it's with something called a CO2 laser. Now, it does take multiple surgeries to get all of these tumors removed because, one, we don't want to keep a turtle under anesthesia for an extended period of time, and two, just like as humans, they do need to rest and regain their strength after each surgery so they're strong enough to make it through their next one. Now, if the turtle does have tumors that are all removed after they've all been removed, they actually have to stay with us for an observation period because they have a little bit of a chance of these tumors regrowing. Now, in that time, their body will start to naturally produce antibodies that can actually end up fighting off the virus. They don't have any of these tumors regrowth in that time period. They will be deemed tumor-free, and then they get to go right back out to the ocean. Looks like Miss Medea here is getting a spa day. And yes, friends, she can feel that on the top of her shell. So it is not hurting her, I promise. It's more of she doesn't really like being in the bin, but they actually do like feeling stuff on their shell. Think of it as a little bit ticklish. Now, our last reason why some of our sea turtles are actually coming into us, I think the connection's actually doing really well. So I'm going to see if I can go ahead and move over here because I really actually want to show you guys one of the little babies that ended up coming in that actually is going to be going into one of the other reasons why our turtles are coming into us, which is marine debris, which can really be considered as anything that's out in the ocean that doesn't belong out there. So microplastics, plastic bags, netting, fishing line, anything to that effect. Now, the reason why marine debris is a problem is because sea turtles are actually considered opportunist eaters, meaning that they will eat just about anything that they can get their flippers on. So one of our little ones, everybody meet Scoots. It's a little hawksbill. There she is. So she ended up actually eating some little plastics. Now, what we will always try to do is help this turtle pass this naturally before going in surgically. So that natural regimen that we're going to do for them is one, we will give them medicine. Two, we will then do something called lactulose and vegetable oil. It's going to get everything broken up and slippery inside. We will then give them Metamucil to help them go to the bathroom to be able to pass these objects. And sometimes they can get a little bit gassy, so we actually have to give them human Gas-X and Urbino to help with the gas. But some very good news is that little Scoot here ended up passing those objects all by herself. So she's just under observation to make sure that she is staying healthy and that she's going to be eating properly as well. So we have Scoot, and then we have Helene, who's another one of our little baby hawkbills. So these guys are hatchlings. It's very rare to even have one hatchling, like one hawksbill hatchling, but to have two is absolutely insane, in my opinion. And again, these guys are only a couple months old, so they are, again, just brand spanking new babies. And then over here, this is Ben. Now, Ben, not quite a hatchling, more like a post-hatchling, just because he's a little bit older. He's currently trying to eat his breakfast. Now, the reason why Ben and Helene ended up coming in was due to something called backwashing, which is basically where there were storms and ended up pushing these little guys back up onto the sand and into the shallower areas, and they don't have the energy to make it back out on their own. So they are brought in. We're going to end up helping them regain that energy. And then we're going to end up pushing them back out onto the seagrass patches where those guys will usually stay until they hit a certain size. And then that's when they finally go off on their own after they hit that certain size to start swimming around like an adult sea turtle would. Now, one of the very last reasons, friends, why some of our sea turtles are coming in is due to something called cold sunning. So when the water gets a little too cold, too fast, it leaves our turtles very tired. They float, and then they are more prone to predator attacks, boat strikes, and can even get pneumonia from this. We've actually had over 40 sea turtles come to us just since December due to this cold stunning. Alrighty, friends. So I can already just imagine how many questions that we might have.
This has been such a wild ride. The connection is perfect, by the way. I'm so glad we were able to leave the one area, see a little bit of the scrubbing, the babies, just the whole works, all that the Turtle Hospital has to offer. And so we are going to dive in with that big Q&A with our huge YouTube audience, our big StreamYard audience in just a second. But first, Paige, we're going to dive in with a little Kahoot. See who's paying attention, have some fun for bragging rights. And Paige, what they win for this Kahoot is our everlasting respect. So,
I love that.
Yeah, so we're going to dive in with this. If you want to give us little hints along the way, you're welcome to help us along. For those who are new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And we're going to get to it in just a second. So let's dive in, get underway. There's already 46 of you and 50 plus. Nice. The more the merrier. We'll give you guys an extra few seconds. And then Mr. Hancock, we're going to head to your class for our first question. We're going to have a nice long Q&A together after we are done our Kahoot. But let's get to it and get underway. Here we go. All right. With a turtle on the side. Just a beautiful little turtle. I love these turtles. The professional detachment gone. This is one of my favorite things ever. All right. Paige said this. We went through a lot of them. How many species of sea turtles are there in the world? Are there 2? Are there 5? Are there 7? Or are there 10? What do we think, everybody? Let's get those answers in. Very, very cool. All right. We got 20 more seconds. So many of you already have your answers in. That's awesome. Wow, this is a huge Kahoot. Are we going to get 100? We haven't had 100 in a long time in a Kahoot. Let's see.
Oh my goodness, I miss Kahoot. I haven't seen this in forever.
It's so fun. We do programs with astronauts, and we'll ask at the end, what was your favorite part of the talk? And they'll be like, the Kahoot. So we always like to incorporate them. Yes, 7
good job, guys.
5 are in Florida for those who thought that. There are 2 that aren't in Florida. 7 in the world. Dazzled Giraffe has our lead. We go to question 2. What are some of the key threats to turtles? We talked about some of these. We didn't talk about some of these. Boat strikes, fibropapilloma, tangled in fishing gear, or all of the above. And anyone who's ever done a Kahoot with me before knows that I really like one of these answers in particular for any kind of question. Now, we've covered this year, I'd say 20 turtle programs with various organizations around the world. So one of these we didn't talk about a lot in this one, but is a key threat. The answer is yes, all of the above. Way to go, everybody. We need to make sure
guys.
Old fishing gear out of the water, avoid boat strikes, and help people like the Turtle Hospital help turtles with FP. Great job, everyone. Okay, barely winning by 4 points. So tiny, so close. Green turtles can weigh up too. Paige said this very explicitly right here at the beginning. 50 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, or 500 pounds. What do we think for our second largest sea turtle in the world? And Paige, you talked about the leatherback turtle. Tell us how big the leatherback gets to be again.
2,000 pounds.
So I always like putting this in context for our classes, because if you're a grade like 3 through 6 class, the likelihood is if you looked at every other student in the room, all of you combined are the size of that one turtle, which is crazy, and I love it. All right, 500 pounds is our correct answer. 57 of you got this right, but we've got like 120.
Good job, guys.
Wow, Dr. Wolf takes our lead going into our final question. True or false? Sea turtle shells are composed of the same material as our fingernails, so that top bit on top of the bone. What do we think? If you feel your fingernails, if you feel your hair, perhaps, there's a special material that we see a lot in nature, and it might be what our turtle shells are made of. Maybe it's called keratin, say. So what do we think? 100 answers in. Ooh. Oh, good. So the answer is yes, true, keratin. So if you feel your fingernails, it's a little bit different on the turtles, but it's the same material on top of that bony shell. Okay, let's see. Third, proud gazelle. Second, dun 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 dun. All right, bold gator. And first, and by the way, we have our all-time Kahoot winning team is in today, so I wonder if they won. We'll find out in a minute. Dr. Wolf's our winner. Thank you so much for playing along, everybody, and kudos for having some fun with us. Now, I'm done Kahooting. We're going to dive in with questions. And Paige, you're ready for an epic Q&A. Let's do this thing. Mr. Hancock, come on in and be our first question. Hey.
I can confirm Dr. Wolf is in the house here.
Of course. Bravo.
So question, you mentioned some of the predators earlier that they have them. What are some of the predators of turtles?
What eats
Oh,
our
that's a good question. Alrighty, friends. So it usually depends on how big our sea turtle is. Now, when they are hatchlings, some of their different predators could be ghost crabs, raccoons, coyotes, predatory fish, birds, sharks. Believe it or not, certain species of ants, when the turtle is in their egg, and sadly, us as well. Now, when they get a little bit bigger, about the size of a very small dinner plate, it's going to be mostly predatory fish and sharks. So think of like tuna and mahi. And then as they get really big, about the size maybe like a trash can lid, a little bit bigger, it's going to be just mostly large sharks. Now, for our leatherbacks, when those guys hit a certain size, their predator is going to be killer whales.
So I love when we cover some of these creatures, especially killer whales, which basically eat everything in the ocean. They're like
Thank you. That's exactly what I say.
Yeah. They if there's a blue whale or a great white shark, they don't care. Orcas will eat it. I want to note, just for fun, we partnered with Ripley's Aquarium in Toronto too, and they've got a couple sea turtles, and they've also got big sharks in the same tank, and the turtles bite the sharks. So the turtles are so big now, they're winning. They outweigh the sharks. So
they are kind of feisty sometimes. They're very sassy.
Sassy's our word of the day, kids. This is Archer Siemens class. We're going to head to Florida. Come on in with your first question. Hey, guys. Hi.
Hello.
Big boys. Do all types of turtles get along?
Get along.
Do they all get along? That is a very good question. So, a little thing about the green sea turtles, these guys definitely can go with each other. They do just fine being in the same tanks together. The only sea turtle that we actually cannot put in the same tank is actually going to be our loggerheads, which I think since we're doing good, I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys who it's called Tater and Tot. And even though they have been together most of their life, we actually still have to keep them separated because they can be very territorial. Now, some of our other sea turtles can go with other species. But typically for our loggerheads, they actually have to basically stay by themselves most of the time just because of their territorialness. So this is some little loggerheads.
Hanging out.
These are the only two. Yeah, separated because they're very feisty.
Yep. Feisty, sassy. We've got all these adjectives for the turtles today. It's very exciting.
I know.
All right, we're going to dive in with some YouTube friends. So Mrs. LePage's class, our pool group, if you guys want to flick on your microphones, flick on your cameras. If you are doing camera spots, we'll come to you for questions in just a second. I'm going to take a couple from our YouTube friends. Miss Riddle's class in Nova Scotia wants to know, how do the turtles eat jellyfish without getting stung?
Oh, that's a very good question, friends. So a really cool thing about sea turtles, they have very, very thick skin in their mouth. So it actually doesn't bother them. And another thing that most turtles have is something called papillae. It's like little spikes in the back of their throat that actually helps keep the jellyfish from coming back up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that plus the thick skin really helps.
They're really weird. I encourage you to look up the papillae in their mouth. I can try and find a picture and share it later. We talked about it with leatherbacks the other day. They're really weird structures inside the mouth. You're going to love them. All right. Pool 6-7s. Hey, guys. Welcome to the broadcast and take us away. Hey.
Hi there. Our class is wondering if you have any freshwater turtles at the hospital.
Oh, that's a good question. So we actually do not have any freshwater turtles here. We specialize only in sea turtles.
Yeah, I will say in Ontario, where you guys are, there's lots of places that keep freshwater turtles. The Toronto Zoo actually has a huge freshwater turtle program, releasing them into the wild, sort of like the Turtle Hospital, but for freshwater turtles. So if you're keen on that, you can catch one of our broadcasts on that as well. There's turtles everywhere. They're all around us. And look at this one coming up to say hello. Wow.
This is Lawnmower.
Great name. Very solid. I had a cousin named Lawnmower once. All right, Mrs. LePage's class, if you guys want to flick on your mic, we can come to you in a second. Miss Clark's group, welcome in. So glad you could join on StreamYard. How many turtles can the Turtle Hospital take care of at one time?
Oh, that's a really good question. We actually don't have really a limit. If a turtle needs our help, we will always make it possible. There will always be room. back in like I think it was 2010, if I'm not mistaken, we had like over 100 sea turtles coming to us in the span of
Wow.
3 days due to a
Wow.
massive stranding event. So they even made room for that, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, we've heard. I think the record that you had at one time that we were talking was like 100 and something over the course of our broadcast together in history. Like,
yeah,
quite the amazing facility, and we've got a chance to tour a little bit of it today. See the big tanks, see the little tanks, see outside. It's a special place you've got down there in the Keys. Cool. All right, YouTubers. There's so many questions pouring in on YouTube. I love it. So Miss Kale's class, they want to know. One of their students is wondering how you determine what size of tank the turtles get when they get to the hospital.
oh wow, that's the first I've actually ever been asked that.
Yeah.
Well, if it helps, so the tank over here, that big enclosure, that is only for our non-releasable sea turtles that can't go back out to the ocean, either due to a boat strike that left them not being able to swim or other ailments. Do you see where those two guys are over there? So
Yeah.
those little tanks are usually for some of the babies and or kind of a little bit of some smaller turtles. And then these guys are usually going to be our turtles that are in care. Now up here, this is more of a turtles that need to be kept directly, they need to be watched pretty much constantly, just due to other ailments. It doesn't really matter kind of how big they are. I obviously want to give them enough room. The only turtles up here that aren't in that direct care would be mostly Tater and Tot, but they need a little bit of a bigger tank since they are bigger. But like Manta, she's getting her exercise up here. She's been having to be watched over quite a lot just due to her having some ailments that had to be tongue fed and stuff like that. So this is more of our area where our patients need that direct care and constant watched over.
Yeah,
Now
sort of
down
like a real
here-
hospital, right?
Yeah.
Like a critical care unit, so to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Almost like that. And then down here, these guys obviously they still need that, that direct care, but down here, it's not like they're doing better, if that makes sense.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Paige. Now, we're going to go back to a YouTube one in a second, but I do want to note, and you can email us this after, Mrs. Dennison's class has a student that's doing an engineering project around turtles. So that's probably a really long question, but I'm going to encourage you in Holliston, if you want to email us that question, we'll put you in touch with Paige and you can chat about how it might help turtles in the future, because that's really, really cool
Ooh.
that you're designing something to help them. That's awesome. All right. Mr. Chittick's class, while we're waiting to go back for another live round with our classes, they've got all sorts of questions. Okay, these are two rapid fire ones. Marco wants to know what your largest turtle is, and Jackson wants to know, how did you find all these turtles? How do you even get them at the hospital?
Yeah, that's awesome. So our largest sea turtle that we have here would be Hanson Bowie, which she actually might be out and eating. She's around 370 pounds.
Wow.
Now, our biggest sea turtle that we've ever had here was 600 pounds, and that was a giant leatherback that we had for about a day and a half named Mojo. Now, how we're actually getting these sea turtles is from folks just like you guys. So if you all were to come down here on vacation, go out in the water, and you guys were to see a sick or injured sea turtle, you guys would end up giving us a call, and we would ask you some questions like your name, the phone number we can get in contact with you, your location, and exactly what's going on with this sea turtle. And then once we go out, we will then get that sea turtle from you. And a little fun fact is that you would get to name that sea turtle since you rescued them. And actually, looks like Hanson's over here, so you guys will get to see our biggest sea turtle as well. So that is how we're getting most of our sea turtles, is folks just like you guys.
You mean you didn't come up with the name Lawnmower by yourselves? That was
Well, okay. A little funny fact is that the Cold Sun sea turtles were named from us. So we had lawnmower, light bulb, and crock pot.
very nice. Very nice. We're going through the whole kitchen. Look at that giant
I
turtle.
know. But Hanson and Coasty and Medea, all those guys were named from the people who actually got to rescue them.
Hanson is a hardy turtle. Look at that. It's eating its Wheaties.
I
Very cool.
know. She
All right.
is so funny. She's
She-
something.
All right, we're gonna do a whole other round, folks, because Paige is like the fastest Q&A person of all time, and we appreciate it.
Woohoo!
Mr. Hancock, come on back in. Take us away. Hey.
Perfect. One of our students noticed there was names on some of the turtles. How did the names get on there, and why do some of them have them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually know pretty much. I think I know who you were talking about, which is going to be Pride Franklin over here. So the reason why we do it, one, it's with a non-toxic marker. And the reason why we do it is because sometimes these guys have to be taken over to get like CT scans at the human hospital. So a little thing about these guys, they actually don't have like direct patient files at a human hospital like we do. So we have to write on their shell. That way everybody knows, okay, this is the turtle that ended up getting the CT scan so they could put it on for their information. And just in case if they are getting moved around, we want to make sure we know who's who.
Very, very cool. Look at that. There's our name. All right. And that name does come off. Like if you were to release the turtle into the wild, do you have to scrape that name off? Or does it just come off? Yeah.
Oh, it comes off naturally. It's I think they actually just rewrote it pretty recently because it was kind of coming off yesterday.
Yeah, we always get this question whenever we do the turtle hospital. So rest assured, they're not going back out into the ocean with Pride or Lawnmower on their back. It'd be very confusing for any people who saw them. Mrs. Archer Stevens, guys, welcome in, guys. Come on in and take us away. Hey. Hi. Yep. Oh, let's be quiet and make sure we get our question in, okay? Perfect.
Let's go. Matthias, go.
My question is, how many turtles have you guys been able to release to the wild?
Very cool.
Oh my
question.
gosh, that's one of my favorite questions to answer. So since we have gotten started in 1986, we have treated and released over 4,000 sea turtles.
Wow, that's wild. Like, kudos to you. And every time, oh, there's our hi. Oh, I'll get myself off screen. There we are. Look at that. Hello, we got. It's like a kiss blown by a turtle. Very nice.
I know.
Yeah.
Haven's so adorable.
4,000 turtles they've released back into the wild. And this is why we've partnered with the Turtle Hospital so long. Like, nobody does it better than them. Other groups around the world come to them for advice on how to care for turtles, re-release them, all this great work that they've built up with over decades. And so I really encourage you, check out their website. If you're ever in the Keys, go see them in person. I'd love to come see you in person. Next time I come to Florida, I'm coming straight to you, okay?
Oh my gosh, please do. It'd be so nice to finally meet you.
Indeed. Mrs. Poole, or Mr. Poole's class, come on in grade 6-7 and take us away. Hey, guys.
My name's Audrey, and I was wondering, how many turtles have you ever had in stock, like the highest number you've ever had at the hospital in total?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I definitely think that would be when we had that massive straining event in around 2010 is when we had over 100 come into us in the span of 3 days.
Too
And
many.
that was definitely the most that we've ever had at one point.
Yeah, that's again, unbelievable testament to the team there, the veterinarians on staff, the educators, everyone else are making that all work.
I know.
You've also had a hurricane hit the facility, and you keep the turtles safe through that. So,
Yes.
yep. The Keys are right in the path of hurricanes, and they've got to prepare for that every time that happens. And the way the facility is designed is to help make sure that the turtles are as safe as can possibly be when those sorts of things happen. So, I love these queries, guys. Your animal welfare concern is awesome. All right, we're going to take one more from YouTube, and we're going to wrap up in not too long. Miss Doyen's class, they've got some kindergartners, and they want to repeat, why are they called loggerheads for our turtles that don't get along with one another?
Oh, yes. So the reason why they are called loggerheads is because they have really, really big heads and necks. So the story goes a long time ago that there was a sailor out on the ocean, and one of the captains ended up looking over upon the horizon, and he looked like he saw a log. So he screams to his crew, "Log ahead." So that is where they ended up getting that nickname from, was loggerhead and log ahead.
It's a pretty
So
good
that's-
name.
That's
I like
where-
their stories.
That's where they're saying that it came from, was from how big their heads and necks were, and their orangish brown complexion looked like a log floating in the ocean.
Our tall tales of the sea in the midst of
Right.
broadcast. Very nice, Paige. Before we wrap up, a question that we haven't gotten yet. I'm surprised we usually do get it. So, on behalf of all of our students, what can kids do to help the turtles, both at the Turtle Hospital and around the world? We've got kids in the middle of the continent. We've got kids on coast. We've got kids in Florida. If you're going to give some recommendations, what would they be?
Heck yeah. So one of the first things I will always tell people is awareness is key. Telling your friends, telling your family what you guys learned today, because believe it or not, like one person can already start to make a difference. If you start, recycling more, if you're throwing things away properly, if you're using reusable items like bags, cups, and straws, spreading that awareness of what you're doing and maybe helping your family do it, and then other families will start to do it. It's almost like a domino effect. Once one person does it, a lot more people will start to do it. And if you don't, I didn't know half the stuff about what was going on with these guys until I worked here. So it's like once you've educated yourself, like what you guys are doing now, learning, it really does make a difference, because then you tell your friends and family what some things that they can start to do to help these guys.
No better message than that. Paige, it's been such a thrill having you on. As always, thank you so much for your passion, your expertise, the walkthrough of your amazing Turtle Hospital.
Thank
Class,
you.
we're going to send along a whole bunch on the Turtle Hospital. We're going to send along a little survey. If you're willing to fill that out for us as we get near the end of the school year, we'd love to hear what you thought about today. But as you well know, Paige, we're going to wrap up by bringing in all our kids to say a big thank you and farewell.
Yay!
So come on in, guys. Mr. Hancock's class, Mrs. Archer Seaman, our